Hey, what's up, man? Hey, man, brother. Good, man. Good. I'm okay. I got water right here. Thank you, though, bro. Shalom. I'm about to get started. I'm out a little earlier today because I got some things I got to take care of later today. But as you can see, it's a nice, bright, sunny day. So today, I'm on one of my backup channels, Shia LA2, because Esau. Last week, I made a video about Amalek. Oh, I'm sorry about these alphabet groups and Amalek, and he got his feelings hurt. He gave me a strike on the channel I made the lesson on, and he also gave me a strike on my main channel for posting it as a repost. So we're just posting the link to it. These devils, man. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and just post this to the other channels that I do have access to still. We'll get started. Shalom Akim. So today we're going to go ahead and get into World War III is inevitable. Okay, we're going to talk about the military status and basically just the details going on around the world and how close we are to going towards this World War III, right? But before we get into that, let's go and give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahshai, Ba'Shem Rukak Kodash. Brakathe Yahweh, Brakathe Yahshai, Brakathe Yahweh, Brakathe Yahshai, Brakathe Yahweh, Brakathe Yahshai, Bahashim Rukak Kodash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who the house of David be born again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharola, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the tree of Israelites of the Holy Bible. Hey, brother, if you are going to go to the store, if you can't get a water bottle, I would actually buy it. I didn't realize how small this was. Oh, thank you, man. All right, hey, thank you, brother. That's better than nothing. Thank you, man. So, it's lucky I might swallow something wrong.
Before you start, how you spell your name to
YouTube?
yeah.
It's Yashayah. Yeshaya. So Yashaya. Yeshaya and then LA.
Yeah, I know the L.
Yeah.
You're missing out the second half. Why?
Yeah. Yeshaya LA.
Okay,
God. So, like I just mentioned, we're gonna go into basically the status of the world and how the world right now is tiptoeing into World War III. Right? We can see what's going on if you're paying attention to all the military news going on. You can see that Ukraine had its long-awaited for offensive, where apparently it was going to use all the armaments that America, Germany, Poland, all these other NATO countries had sent to it to mount a large defensive and attack upon Russia. Okay, but if you pay attention to true news, right, which means you have to actually go outside and either listen to NHK news, which is like Japanese news, or you listen to Russia Today news, right, or even redacted. You'll find out that the Ukrainian offensive was a disaster. That basically it almost, there were so many weapons and military people from Ukraine that were killed that it pretty much It was an embarrassment to Zelensky, the Ukraine, and all the NATO forces that are backing them, right? All the Bradleys that America had sent off to Ukraine were all destroyed. So much so that what America is sending them a bigger military aid budget.
Heaven 7-4.
So the thing is that you got to be careful when you're paying attention to news, because again, if you listen to the NBC, CBS, Fox over here, they're not going to tell you about world news. You got to listen to international news to find out what's really going on. You'll find out that Ukraine right now is losing, and you're going to find out that a lot of the things going on in the world aren't being reported here in America. Just like in Eastern Germany and over in Russia, when the communists had taken over there, they had kept their people naive to what was going on. A lot of people didn't even know that they were under a dictatorship over in Russia or in Germany, right? When people started to go in to these countries, they started figuring out, the citizens of these countries, that is, they started figuring out that they were misled, right? The Russians, for example, the Russians under the communist USSR, socialist system, they believed that America was an impoverished nation and that we were basically trying to fight to get into Russia, right? That they were the freest country and that all the greatness of the world belonged over there in Russia. But it wasn't until more Westerners started going into Russia, and these Russians started to hear more about what was going on around the world. They started realizing that they had basically been indoctrinated and taken over by a tyrannical system. Now, if you look at what's going on in America today, right? You got a party that's in power today that has turned truth into hate speech. That's what they're labeling it, right? They're going after their political rivals, which, regardless if you like Trump or not, the mere fact that politicians are arresting their political rivals, that's a bad sign. That's a bad sign that your political system is not in a working condition, okay? And right now, the president of America, the king of Babylon, Joe Biden, he's actively in an investigation for his corrupt bribery, where he's taking money from third-party organizations. Now, if you followed the politics of Babylon the Great, America, you'll know that the left side, the Democrats, have always been in the pocket of the Chinese CCP party, all the way back to the time of Clinton. Remember when Clinton was getting basically ran through the ringer because of the whole Monica Lewinsky thing? Everybody thought that was the big issue. No, it wasn't. That was simply the issue that the Democrats wanted to portray to the world. When what the real issue is that the Clinton cabinet was caught selling nuclear military secrets to the Chinese government. Okay? Now, ultimately, what happened is, I think it was like a man and a woman inside the Clinton cabinet took the fall, but ultimately, it really was Hillary and Bill Clinton that were behind it. Okay? So you see, all the way from the Clintons, Obama, even Biden now, and all those sides, they're all bought and paid for. And again, the same goes for the Republican side. Now, the Republicans, they're bought and paid for by the corporations of America, right? This is why they're connected to the good old boy network here, okay? But either way, both sides of the political wing here in Babylon the Great, America, doesn't work for you Israelites, for you Negro, Latino, Native Americans. It has nothing to do with us, right? It's simply the system of these Edomites, okay? And though, yes, they'll allow Negro, Latino, Native Americans into their parties and they'll seek your vote, but again, if you understand the way the electoral voting system works, the popular vote doesn't count here in America. It's all decided by, faceless bureaucrats who own these electoral votes, right? And who are these electorals that get to vote these people, man? They're all, for the most part, Edomites, okay? And this is, and again, on top of that, when you even get past all the corruption and the legality of the electoral vote and all this stuff, and you get to the true power, the president doesn't control anything here in the world. They simply are the spearhead. They're the puppet system, right? That it's set up to give you an illusion of power here in America. But the true power is in the banks and the corporations in the true leaders of the world, that being the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, the Habsburgs, the royal family, all these people who sit at the very top, the kings of Edom, the kings of the world. Those are the true rulers of the world, and they dictate to what's going on. Now, the most visible aspect of this large conglomerate of rulers, the 1%, is the World Economic Forum. That's their public facade that they're presenting out to the world. Now, Klaus Schwab, he's not one of them. He's simply just their puppet, right? He's the forerunner guy who's basically out there, pushing the wheels of the 1%. So that's ultimately the way that works, okay? And the reason why I said all that is to say this, is that the powers that be, the people, the true rulers of the world, regardless of what political side you're on, we're all being ushered in to war, right? We're all being pushed over that edge to a war, right? This is why you're seeing Iran just announced, I think like 2 weeks ago, that they've developed their own supersonic missile, right? Nuclear warhead, okay? So there you go. So now the Israelis, Amalek, the chief tribe of Edom, they're now worried because, again, Iran, right, who were the Persians from the time of Daniel, right, who originally took down Babylon, they're now, they're the mortal enemies of Israel, right? The Israelis, I should say, right? And that's why the Israelis right now have been ramping up their military weaponry, their military rhetoric, and saying that that a nuclearized Iran is a threat to them. Okay, and this is why you've been seeing. I believe they sabotaged or they destroyed one of their military facilities. The Israelis did, that is. They destroyed Iranian facilities recently. Okay, and we're starting to see too who is it? The guys who took over Iraq, the so-called Taliban, I believe it is, or the insurgent guerrillas there. They're now launching attacks against Iran, right? In the Toyotas with those big 60 millimeter machine guns in the back. But see, the thing is those Taliban are actually being backed by the Israelis, the American, the CIA, to fight against Iran to cause disruption in that region. Okay? See, but these are all the world political maneuvering that's taking place that is causing the problems of the world. Okay? And this is what's going to eventually cause the entire world to go to World War III. But let's go and get started with this scripture. Let's go and read this. Because again, even though a lot of us, we're seeing a lot of different things going on right now, we're being distracted with this whole alphabet community things, this whole Pride Month, a lot of the corruption going on, the economy going through inflation, all these things. What's happening is that the true narrative of the world is going forward while you're being distracted, right? And that's explained here in the Bible. Let's go and read this. This is Matthew 24:6. It says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Right? So you see, so back in the day when the Messiah came on the scene, he was asked, they said, "Great Master, what are going to be the signs of the end of the world?" Well, he's told them that you're going to hear wars and rumors of wars. And that's what we're ultimately hearing right now. We're hearing wars and rumors of wars. And yes, that's not, this isn't like unfounded. This isn't just uncommon. This has happened before. Back when World War I took place, World War II, the Vietnam, the Vietnam Wars, the Korean Wars, right? And all the different wars around the world. But what's different now? Well, the difference is that all the other things took place, or taking place, that the Messiah said. Let's go and read it. "For nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." Right? And are we not seeing that? Are we not seeing a mass kill-off of all these cows, pigs, chickens? Right? Crops aren't coming in because they weren't getting planted during the whole C-19 propaganda, or pandemic. Right? Aren't we seeing that a lot of these stores are starting to run out of goods? Right? We're seeing earthquakes in diverse places. Just look at all the earthquakes that have been taking place down in South America, right? In the Ring of Fire, which basically encompasses the Pacific Ocean, right? There's been massive amounts of volcano activity, okay? And if you look at Yellowstone, the caldera, again, the caldera is that massive bump that used to be like a dish, right? That spread almost over all that state that Yellowstone is in. It's now lifted up and it's now like full, okay? And we all know that the how can I put it? That the tectonic plates, let's say this is California, and this is the tectonic plate under the Pacific Ocean. It goes under California, and every time we have a big earthquake here, it's because this little tip here, it goes down and it bounces up, and that's when we get this earthquake. Well, this part down here, ultimately that land that's getting pushed down, that's the part that's of land that's getting turned into magma, lava, and that is underneath the caldera over there, Yellowstone, right? And even the scientists have said we are way over for an earthquake, okay? Because again, what does the Bible tell you? The Bible tells you that there's going to be a great earthquake in the time when the Lord shows up. So again, that's ultimately what we're probably waiting for here in California, for that huge earthquake. Now, besides all that, let's get into some more local news, okay? Just recently, as of 2 days ago, and I think even today, there's been massive amounts of military moving all around the United States. Over in Philadelphia, you've had a large movement of military convoys going into downtown LA or downtown Philadelphia. Over in Hollywood, right now, over in Hollywood, there's massive amount of military convoys right there on Sunset Boulevard, parked in front of the what is it, the Kodak Theater, right? There today, a video showed two massive Ospreys. Those are those planes that have like helicopter rotors. They landed in someplace here in California, Perth Lake or something. So, and then over in Ohio, there is a large amount of artillery, mobile guns, basically tanks with artillery cannons on them. There's about maybe 20 of them that were basically rolling down a highway, okay? And then on top of that, you have all these different military movements and military people who are saying that they're being not activated, but they're being told to be put on active duty. So you see right now what's happening is there's a lot of movement going around the world. There's a lot of things going on in the background which you're not being told about. Because why? Because the news that you depend on has been turned into entertainment. It's been bought out a long time ago, right? All these, the Fox News, NBC, CBS, ABC, all these different news organizations have now, for the most part, turned into propaganda rags, okay? And the funny thing is there's people inside these organizations which are starting to see this, and they're now starting to rebel. This is ultimately why they got rid of Tucker Carlson from the Fox News organization. They got rid of him, even though he was their most popular news anchor, and he's now on Twitter, right? But what happened last week, or a couple of days ago, you had one of the producers of the Fox News network, when Joe Biden was there, when they put a picture of Biden up the little ticker at the bottom called the Chiron, right? It said wannabe dictator speaks at the White House, okay? Showing that these people within the system, even they're starting to get tired of all the bullshit that they're seeing, okay? That they know that there's something going on. Well, that's what is going on, right? The devils who have sold you out, who right now are running this government, right, through the Democratic Party and even the Republican Party, because they both sold out. Both sides are uniparty right now, right? They just pretend to be a little different. But for the most part, there's still some people within these organizations that are trying to do their best, but it's too far gone, people. You know, your leaders have been co-opted, and they've sold you out, so that way they can secure them and theirs in the new world order. Okay, that's for the most part what's going on, and they're not telling you about these rumors of wars. We're having to see it ourselves in social media, RT, and all these different news organizations. Okay, and ultimately, the Lord has put it on our spirit here to tell you about it, to tell you about what's going on. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and get into this scripture. Well, before we get into that, let's go through and talk about the different places that are at war right now, right? You got Russia, Ukraine. That's one place. You got America versus China over there in the South Korean Sea. You got America and North Korea, right? Basically, because again, Korea, for the most part, is joined up with the BRICS nations. You also got Iran and Israel. You got, who else is it? There's a small war brewing up between Venezuela and America, right? Because again, Venezuela and Cuba have let China and Russia into their countries to set up a base there, okay? And now it was just recently showed that that the government actually knows that the Chinese are letting military age and trained men who are connected to the CCP in through the borders, right? So, and that right there fulfills that prophecy in the Bible that tells you that they're going to come up into the valley of the city of unwalled villages, which is America, right? So pretty soon America is going to be infiltrated from the inside. We're going to see sleeper cells more likely go off and destroy critical infrastructure, and that's going to leave a lot of our people with their pants down. See, a lot of our people are going to be focused on using on thinking that these lessons are always going to be online, that they're always going to be able to turn on the faucet and water is going to come out, right? But what's happening is that the world leaders of the world, they're allowing this to happen. And why is that? Because America's time is over, right? They're going to bring America down to, their plans is to bring America down to a third world country and to ultimately reestablish the New World Order back in the Eastern Hemisphere, right? Right there where Kazakhstan, which is going to be the New World Order city, right? And it's going to be joint with Russia, China, and Europe. This is why you're starting to see Britain wanting to join the BRICS nation. This is why you're also seeing France wanting to join the BRICS nation, right? Because they've sold America out. America has been betrayed by its allies. Okay. Now, what that means ultimately is that the Lord has done a marvelous work, and he's breaking the staff of these rulers. Right? They no longer are in the control that they believe that they were. Now, what that ultimately means for us Israelites, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, is that we got to be aware of what's going on, and we have to start acting accordingly. Right? First and foremost, we have to get right with the Lord. Right? Which means what? That means to repent and come back to our original ways. To find out who we are. Right? To find out that we're not just Negro, Latino, Native Americans. That we are a special people. That our ancient history goes back all the way back to the time of the Bible. That we were these people. That we are these people spoken about in the Bible. Right? And that for us, there's this particular destiny written out for us. Right? Well, at least for the 1/3 of our people who wake up and stand up to claim this. Okay? Now, what does that mean? That means that in being in this reality, being in this world, yes, we should pay attention to what's really going on, which means we got to get rid of all these childish things, put away the Legos, put away the sports, put away the movie series and the show series, get rid of all this fantasy living and the fantasy attraction that takes your mind out of reality. Pay attention to what's really going on, right? And like I said, come back to your heritage, come back to your true self. Realize that we're Israelites. Realize that we're these peoples. And that means to find out what the Lord has asked of us. And how do you do that? Read the Bible. That's all we got to do is read the Bible, right? And when you read the Bible, what you want to do is you want to go online and you want to get certain breakdowns for these books, right? For every one of these 81 books in the Bible, right? You read Genesis and you go online, you type in Great Millstone Genesis breakdown, and you'll see the apostles there breaking it down, what every line means, what certain words mean, and you do that for every chapter for the most part, okay? And then what happens is that you start little by little, you start getting the true understanding of what the Bible's talking about, right? And when you get the true understanding of what the Bible's talking about, you then are given the Holy Spirit, because again, the Holy Spirit is the understanding of the Bible. Okay, so now that you have that, so now you have understanding of the Bible, then you understand, who you are in the Bible, who your enemies are, because believe it or not, you Negro, Latino, Native Americans, we have enemies in this world. And though they may not be, evil to our face, right, or snarling their teeth, or they're, murdering our people directly in front of us, they're doing it through their policies. They're doing it through their actions, right? Through the way that they impoverish our communities. This is ultimately what these enemies have done. Now, they've ultimately done it through what's referred to as systematic racism, right? Or systemic racism, okay? Because this, this is why the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, we don't own anything. This is why we don't basically control our destinies. We don't make our clothing. We don't make our food. We have to get our foods from these mass producers, the Iranians, the Persians, the Chinese, the Edomites, the white people, right? The Japanese, the Chinese, right? And then what we do, we resell it to our people, right? Or they come into our communities and they then start selling it to our people, and we're just consumers, right? We're just basically, we go to the wants of our enemies for the wants of all things. That being said, let's go to this next scripture here. This is Isaiah 19:2. It says, "And I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." And so, for the most part, that's it, right? I was going to read the rest of it, but it just talks about how Egypt's going to be brought down, how its idols are going to be destroyed, and that's what we're seeing right now. But the point I wanted to bring out about this is how the Egyptians are going to start fighting against the Egyptians. Now, that's not talking about the Egyptians over there in the land of Egypt. No, it's talking about the Americans, right? Because you see, when Isaiah had been given this vision, he had seen this great, huge city, right, with Egyptian-like obelisks, Egyptian-like pyramids, and people who basically ran the world. Now, during this time, the Egyptians were the people that he related to the most, being the people that he's seen in his vision. But what did he see? He saw the Americans, right? The people known as the Edomites and their empire, right? So the Lord right there is basically showing Isaiah that he's going to put the Americans against the Americans. And this is right now why you're seeing so much animosity between everybody in America. Pretty much there's going to be a civil war here in America. And this is why you've seen gun sales go up like crazy. Just today, Biden says that gun violence is out of control and that they will remove assault weapons. Now, I'd like to see that happen. They're going to definitely attempt to do it under illegal means. But do you really think these Edomites are going to give up their weapons? That's going to probably cause the civil war right there, right? The sedition amongst men that's spoken about in 2nd Ezra. Sedition meaning to go against the government, right? And not only that, but now you have all these people believing even more that the elections were stolen, right? Because there's a lot of evidence coming out for that. But again, like I said, these elections have never actually been fair to begin with, right? Not for the longest of times, not all the way back into like the 40s. Before, after that, for the most part, all these elections have been bought and paid for, manipulated, and who for? To benefit these Edomites. And why is that? Well, it's because this is the Edomite kingdom, and it's their kingdom, which they're dictating goes which way. Now, ever since the death of John F. Kennedy, we've seen a massive turn in corruption, and ultimately, like I said again, I've said personally, John F. Kennedy was the last true president America had. Right after that, it's all been a bunch of automaton presidents, puppet presidents, put into power to lead America to this new world order. Okay. So let's go ahead. So that being said, now that we see all these different killing me. Trying to put my water where the sun's not gonna hit it because it's hot out today. So again, so all that being said, all this inner fighting which we're seeing right now happening with the LGBT community fighting against the conservatives, right? You got the conservatives fighting against the Democrats. You have the boomers fighting against the Zoomers, right? The Generation Z. You got all these different groups here in America that have been divided and are currently being conquered, right? They're being misled and they're being destroyed. You have blacks against so-called whites. You have whites against so-called Latinos with the whole immigration thing going on. You have men against women. Right now, there's such a huge spirit of division here in America that this place is definitely not going to stand, because what did the Messiah himself said, right? When they were accusing him of being the devil, right? He was basically making a statement saying that, well, if I'm casting out these demons, then that means that Satan's against Satan. And then he said, if Satan stands against Satan, how can his kingdom stand, right? And that right there is a parable that we're using today to tell that if Satan's house was ever to go against Satan, or any house was to fight against itself, it would not stand. And right now we see that these Egyptians are fighting against the Egyptians in every manner, right? Men against women, conservative against liberal, like I said, young against old, corporations against the people, the government against the people, right? And all these different divisions are going on, right? And that's all by purpose. And why? Well, that's because the Lord, just like he did in Babylon the Great, ancient Babylon, at the Tower of Babel, well, where he brought down the spirit of confusion upon Babylon, and he made them speak all in different tongues. That's what the spirit that the Lord has released here in America, the spirit of division, okay? And a lot of that is happening through these Edomites, right? So again, because why? Because though the Lord dictated it and commanded for it to happen, how did that happen? Well, the Lord gave the commandment to Satan. Satan then put it in the minds of his people, these Edomites, to make it so. And that's why you're seeing all this division being manufactured, and it's going through America, right? And what is this doing? What is this causing, right? Well, ultimately it's causing the world around America to move forward, to ingratiate itself with all the resources of the world, right? It's causing the enemies of America to be able to stand up, to get ready for this great and horrible war which is about to come. And one of the big things that's happening is that in all the pridefulness of America, it has given all the money and resources, weaponry to Ukraine to facilitate this war against Russia and this basically Russian province known as Ukraine. Because again, remember, if you're unaware, Ukraine used to be part of Russia before, but then it broke off, right? And it broke off all with the help of America back in the day. Okay, so again, the way what's happening now is you have a comedian actor who was set up as a puppet over there and made the president of Ukraine, who is now leading those people into destruction and ultimately causing a perpetual war. Because again, the people who are fighting and causing this war over there, a lot of it's the military industrial complex. Because why? Because these devils are laundering lots of money through it, and in doing and besides doing that, they're causing a push forward or a leap forward to go through this new world order. Okay, but all that's causing is causing these Russians, Vladimir Putin, and all the people over there to get upset at not only the Ukrainians but America, right? Putin came out and said that they are in a real war against NATO and America, right? They've now said that they see the NATO and America as combatants, okay? And in doing so, what is that doing? Well, all these train track derailments, all these different things going on. Do you think that was by accident? Do you think that really was America doing it to itself? I bet you what that was. I bet you that was sabotage being done by these Russians and Chinese. Because why? Because we were doing the exact same thing to them over in Russia. When you heard about or you seen those videos, those large oil refineries blowing up in Russia, or the munition factories being burnt down, do you think that really was an accident that happened there in Russia by the people? No, it happened by CIA contractors or just basically military mercenaries paid for by the Western powers to do that. And again, what that means is that the Russians, the Chinese are going to be doing the exact same thing over here in America, right? And this is where you're seeing all these train derailments, a lot of these food. I think that mostly it's the train derailments is what's being caused by that, and these other food organizations, the food factories going up. I think that right there just has to do with the elites just trying to shut down the food system, right? But the point being is that we can't deny that we are living in war-like scenarios here in America, right? Where things are burning down, spontaneously. Forest fires are being ignited, right? The world America is in a state of war or sabotage, which will eventually lead to war, right? And like I said again, we're seeing all these military-age Chinese and Russians and different people of different nations coming through these borders. Now, that right there, like I said again, may lead to these sleeper cells activating here and ultimately sabotaging even more stuff, right? Why did the brothers on Instagram and TikTok the other day post over in New York there was massive amounts of electrical repair trucks out in the streets waiting for something large to happen, right? They didn't say what, but somebody walked up to them and asked them what they were doing there. There's hundreds of these repair trucks, like the Edison repair trucks and everything, all over the streets, right? Asking what they're doing, and the repairman said, "We're out here to prepare for something because something big may happen." What big thing may be happening, right? Well, like I said again, right now there's a secret war going on, and a lot of us aren't being told. And you got to remember too, when World War II and World War I were officially declared, they never actually said, this officially is the start of World War II. No, it wasn't declared until years after the event, right? That this is World War I, or that this is World War II. So they're not going to tell you when World War III kicks off. It's just going to start happening, right? And they're going to say, oh, it's these other countries that are fighting, and we're going to send our troops over there, and this and that. But look, man, America has already started to deploy military personnel over to Poland. We already deployed military weaponry over there. We just recreated a new military aid package. I think it was now we're up to $70 billion in total that America has sent over to Ukraine. So again, we're for the most part we are in the first beginning states of World War III, right? What did the Bible say? That these are the beginning of sorrow. And all this, like I said, all this cloak and dagger events that are taking place, all these sabotaging events going on in Russia, Ukraine. Like for example, right now the big propaganda and the big lie that the Western media is trying to tell the world is that large dam over in Ukraine that was bombed, that was under control of the Russians, that they bombed themselves, right? And that they blew up that dam, which then caused, which is endangering that large nuclear facility over there, and ultimately is damaging the ports which the Russian military store their ships at. See, that's the big lie that they want you to believe, that the Russians did that to themselves. No, that was done by Western forces, okay? Now, that right there is going to cause this to happen. Events like that is going to cause this to happen. This is Ezekiel 38:4. It says, and I will, actually, let me start at 1, actually. And the word of Yahweh, B'Shem Yashai, came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, right? Talking about the Russians, right? The Russians, this is talking about the Russians, okay? And saying, Thus saith Yahweh, B'Shem Yashai, power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya, and with them, all of them with shields and helmets. Gomer and all his bands, that's talking about Turkey and all those people. So for the most part, you see, what's going to happen is eventually the Russians are going to get roused up. And they're getting roused up because, again, if you really know what's going on, the Russians are the good people in this fight, right? Or at least the morally correct in this fight. Both of them are Edomites. But you see, right now, the Russians are basically just saying how they're basically fighting against the New World Order and the witches and the pedophiles over here in America. Okay? And so they're morally in the right. But the thing is that they've been very reserved on on their military tactics and what they're gonna do. But pretty soon, with events like that that dam being blown up, with all the sabotages going on in Russia, all the sanctions continuing, which are only making it better for Russia, and are gonna eventually cause Russia to stand up. That bear is gonna be roused up, and eventually it's gonna pounce. Right? We're gonna see all these nations, and we're actually already seeing this. We're already seeing where it says Libya and Gomer is gonna be with them, and the Persians are gonna be with them. That's what the BRICS nations is all about. Brazil, Russia, India, and I think it's China, right? And then you got S for I forgot who, but also Portugal's Saudi Arabia's in there now. I believe Egypt's in them with the BRICS nations now. So you see, all these other nations have joined on to the Russian, China, Iranian BRICS alliances, right? And they're now all ultimately getting ready to go to war, right? They're building up their military. Why do you think Iran all of a sudden now got a supersonic nuclear missile? Well, because these other people, like the Russians, the Chinese, share that technology with them, right? And now they're prepared for the battle. Okay. Continuing. Let's read this. This is Joel 3:9. It says, "Proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles, prepare war, make up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh Shemel Shai. Let the heathen waken and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about." So there you go. So you see, all these nations that are now choosing sides, you got the NATO nations and the BRICS nations, right? All these nations are getting ready for war. And so much so that they're like, it says here, turn your pruning hooks and your plowshares into war weapons, right? And when you look at what's happening in Iran, you look at what's happening over in North Korea, Russia, right? They're actually putting a lot of their resources into their military. So much so that they've damaged their food supplies, right? Now apparently China has been gathering up so much food and stockpiling so much food because what they're doing is they're also providing that food sustenance to these other allied nations. Okay? But the point being is that right now the world, especially these heathen nations, they're preparing at an alarming rate with all these military weaponry, the technology. When you look at China, for the most part, it's a copy of the American military. Okay, and the thing is this is what we're seeing happening in front of us. Okay. And we're not the only ones that see this, but the American military and the American government sees it as well. And this is why ultimately America is doing what it's doing right now, which is what I just mentioned. You're starting to see a lot of military movement going around the United States. And not only that, but you're starting to see a lot of military people being activated and put on standby or alert status. I'm not sure what the wording is, because they're getting ready to be deployed, right? Why do you think they're talking about that the military is failing to meet its recruitment numbers? Is because because those recruitment numbers nowadays are more important than ever. Because why? Because America is trying to build up its military power to confront these other heathen nations which are coming up against them, right? And that's ultimately going to be fulfilled in this. This is Joel 2:20. It says, "But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and I will drive Zalaki. And I will drive him into the land, a barren and desolate, with his face towards the east sea, and his hinder part towards the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. Right? So you see, what's happening is that right now, America, well, there's going to be events taking place. We're already seeing these events shaping up right now, to the point where what's going to happen is that America is going to eventually have to take their army that's here in America over in Hawaii and over there in all these military bases, and start deploying the majority of them over to the Saudi Arabia area, right? That's what this place described as Saudi Arabia, right? And we understand now that Saudi Arabia has, for the most part, become a traitor to America, right? They've turned their back. What was it? Anthony Blinken, he's like an American representative that went over to Saudi Arabia. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. When he went over there, they didn't even have, the Saudi Arabian government didn't even have the courtesy to put out the American flag in the meeting room with Anthony Blinken, right? There was a Saudi Arabian flag, but there was no American flag. And normally, when diplomatic members come to visit, right, to have meetings, they'll put out flags for both countries, right? They didn't even do that for America, right? Showing that Saudi Arabia right now isn't down with America at all, right? In fact, the Saudi Arabian government made a peace treaty with Iran, who were basically their mortal enemies, all thanks to the CIA and America's interference, right? But now Saudi Arabia has went around and started to gather together all the Ishmaelites, the Arab nations, right? Syria, Turkey, they're all now in cahoots with Saudi Arabia, right? So what's going to happen is, more likely, America's going to find a reason to go to Saudi Arabia and to liberate it, or take democracy to Saudi Arabia, right? But ultimately, what this prophecy says is that there's going to come an event that's going to cause America to take its army out from America and take it over there to Saudi Arabia. And what's that going to be all for? Well, it's going to be to get ready for this massive war that's going to take place there in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And if you're unaware, the Valley of Jehoshaphat is right out there outside of Israel, right, to the west of it. So basically, what's going to happen is all these armies that you're seeing gathered up there in Ukraine and in that area, Eastern Europe, they're eventually going to go down south to the Levant area, basically the Middle East, and that's ultimately where they're gonna basically hash it out, right? And again, what's more likely the big impetus for that is Syria, because again, there's massive oil fields in Syria which America has control over, right? They're saying that they're taking care of it and they're securing it, but ultimately what they're doing is they're basically pilfering it for these corporations. Now that Saudi Arabia and Syria, Turkey, and all these countries have all basically made up, now there's no need for war in Syria anymore, and now America is an invading country in Syria, and there's no reason for them to be there, because the wars that they were protecting these oil fields from no longer need protecting. Okay, so we're gonna see that play out in the next couple of months, I'm sure, right? But more likely that's gonna be one of the main reasons for America to go into that area, and because again, you gotta remember that Russia was backing the Syrians, the Turkeys that were in that area, right? And that's where you got Russia's side in there. Okay, and again, if America goes there, you're gonna have Russia go there, and again, if Russia goes there, Iran is going to go there, who's already friends with Syria, and you have China again, who's friends with Saudi Arabia, who's friends with Syria, right? So you're going to see you're starting to see all these puzzle pieces coming together. Next, let's get Jeremiah 3 and 4, or actually Jeremiah 15 and 2. Because you see all these things going on in the world, right? From the economy collapsing, the inflation rising, to all these division of the people here in America, to the wars breaking out around the world. Oh, hey, thank you, brother. So all these things taking place are all going to eventually mean one thing for us here in the low levels, right? Well, it's going to mean death, right? Because either you're going to get hit by violence, famine, or other things. But let's go and read what the Lord has told us to tell you or warn you against. This is Jeremiah 15:2. And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then shalt thou tell them, thus saith Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, such as for death to death, and such as for the sword to the sword, and such as for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity. You see, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of things going down here, man. Pretty soon, all this calm and all this normal day living, right, is gonna this calm and peace that we're all used to is gonna go away. And now there's gonna be famine where you're not gonna have enough to eat. Food's gonna become too expensive because the inflation is gonna continue to rise, and also the amount of food is gonna start to shrink, and that's gonna ultimately just compound the price of food. And then on top of that, you're gonna have the violence that's going to go ahead and raise up. We're already starting to see violence tick up at an alarming rate. People are robbing more people, and ultimately, the cops now are you're seeing a lot of crazy videos where cops are just shooting people down for the smallest of things, right? So you got that. Then you also have the captivity, right? These laws are starting to become draconian here in America. You're starting to see a lot of unjust laws being initiated with gun laws, hate speech laws, and all these different things going through. But there's going to be a lot of people put into the prisons, right? And ultimately, what is this all for? It's because of the massive change going on here in America. You're starting to see this new world order coming in, and in doing so, you're seeing that there's going to be a lot of unease and basically a lot of turbulence that are going to be or a lot of chaos that's going to come out of this. Because why? Because these devils are trying to bring forward all this chaos so that way down the road, once things have deteriorated to a point, they could then come in with their solution, and people will be begging for that solution, right? What is that solution? Is the UBI, Universal Basic Income, the free healthcare, the free education, the free housing, and all that stuff. Basically, the communist, socialist, new world order that's going to require you to take a mark of the beast, right? That RFID chip in your hand or in your forehead. Okay, so that's ultimately what we're seeing, and that's ultimately what the Lord has said here, man. Those who have been destined for these 4 ways, they're destined for that, and there's nothing they can do. This is why a lot of people can't get this truth. This is why you can explain this truth perfectly to people at some points, but they're not going to hear you. They're not going to listen, right? They're gonna go one way, and some of them may get it, right? The brother Manatzazak, he brought out this video that the elder from the Pittsburgh camp, Karatza, I believe, he brought out this video of this Gavanichi, whatever, Hebrew Israelite girl, woman, I should say, that was in this Hebrew Israelite thing, right? Like as if it's a choice, right? Saying that she got brought into it when she was 15, and she got brought into it, by her mom, and she was there, doing this Israelite thing for 13 years. Then all of a sudden, she basically read a definition, and it basically showed her the truth, and now she doesn't even think the North Atlantic slave trade is in the Bible, right? Showing that these people, like the brother Manatzazak said, that these people, though they are physically woken up, right, knowing that they're Israelites in the flesh, they haven't spiritually woken up, right? They haven't understand. They don't have that. They were never given that faith that they need to believe this message, right? That they basically get dissuaded and they get offended in this truth and they go away. Okay. Now that ultimately is what's going on with the world here. Okay, or should I say the Israelite world, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans. You have a lot of our people who are waking up, understanding that they're Israelites, but they don't really know much more than that. A lot of them, that's as far as they go. right? And this is where, if you're one of those people, right, where you've learned you're an Israelite, you started coming in and watching these videos, you gotta fight, and you gotta basically continue to endure until the end. You gotta basically take these lessons in, continue to study, continue to find out what it means to be an Israelite, how to observe it, how to follow the Lord, and in the ways that He told us to follow Him, and ultimately, you start learning little by little, right? Or else, why? Because if you don't do that, then what that means is that the Lord has destined you for one of the 4 ways that I just read, right? The sword, the pestilence, the famine, right? Or the captivity, okay? And that's ultimately why we're here teaching, and we're trying to reach out to our people out there to tell them to wake up, because again, the times are going to come where we're not going to be here anymore, and ultimately you're going to have only that which you've gathered in these times, right? To get, bring into you and to build up that faith. So let's go read this. This is Acts 17 and 30. It says, "And the times of this ignorance God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent, because He hath appointed a day in the which He will judge the world in righteousness by that man whom He hath ordained, whereof He hath given assurance unto all men, in that He hath raised Him from the dead." So you see, what's happening, like I said, is that the Lord ultimately, now that we're living in these end times, the Lord has put it on the spirit of certain men like the apostles, me, and other brothers out here who are teaching this truth, making these lessons, spreading the truth of the Bible, right? To wake up our people, right? And why is that? Well, because the Lord has made a commandment, right? That before, when He used to wink at the ignorance of our people, back when you would go to churches and you would basically practice paganism in the light, in the auspices of following the Lord no longer is accepting that, right? He doesn't see that as well, you're trying. Now He sees that as an offense. And why is that? Well, because the truth has come out now, and the Lord has actually told us what we have to actually do. So if you want to keep, worshiping Christmas, doing all these pagan rituals and going to these churches and committing idolatry, all under the guise that you're doing it for God and Jesus, the Lord's going to kill you, right? Because because now again, He no longer is winking at our ignorances. Now he's checking to see who's been paying attention, who has basically understood the assignment, okay? And us Israelites who are coming into this truth, watching these lessons, going out there teaching people, or just helping this movement in one way, we've understood the assignment, right? And this is what we're doing here, battling and fighting to stay in this truth, to spread this message. All while all these people around us are basically walking dead, not paying attention to what's going on, and ultimately for them is appointed the 4 ways of death, right? So that being said, let's go and get this real quick. This is Acts 2 and 20. Acts 2 and 22, in fact. "Ye men of Israel, hear these words. Yahushua of Nazareth, a man appointed of God amongst you, by miracles, wonders, and signs, which God did by Him in the midst of you, as ye yourselves also know." Right? So that being said, the main part is that Yahushua was a fellow brother, right? He came from the tribe of Judah, which would make him a so-called Negro, right? The Lord sent one of our people to come and save us, to basically give us this gift of repentance to be brought back, right? And this isn't for the entire world. Like it said, ye men of Israel, meaning you Negro, Latino, Native Americans. This is what was done for you. So now we got to actually come into this truth, right? Next, let's get this. This is the book of Sirach, 5 and 7. "Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day, For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. Because all those things that I was mentioning earlier today about all these military movements and all these big convoys going into downtown Philadelphia and Hollywood, you should see the faces of these people who are taking these images, right? The people on the streets, the sidewalk. You know, it's an average day there in Philadelphia, people walking on the sidewalks, and everybody's looking in shock, looking at each other, being like, what's going on? What's happening, right? Same thing with those people that were at this, it appeared to be like a soccer field. They seen these Ospreys come and land. They were all excited, like worried, like these kids were jumping up and down and ran to their parents. And why is that? Because once these events start to kick off, they're gonna come suddenly on the people who haven't been paying attention, right? And this is why we're saying you got to turn to the Lord as soon as possible. You got to make no tarrying. Don't delay. Don't wait to turn to the Lord. Turn to the Lord now and start building yourself up. Start building that spiritual garment. Because again, remember, all the truth, everything that you've been putting into your mind, the understanding, the Holy Spirit that you're building up, what that is that's a spiritual garment that you're building for yourself. And what you ultimately what you want to do is spoken about in the parable of the wedding feast, when the Lord basically said, you know, he made a wedding, and at the party, everybody was asked to come in, and those who came in, some were there, but some of them were there without a garment. And what did the Lord do? He cast them out. What that means is that you can't just come into this truth just all of a sudden one day and be like, okay, I'll follow what my cousin is following, or I'll follow what, you know, this person's told me to do. Now I see shit's getting real. I'm gonna start believing now, right? See, if you haven't been in this truth long enough to build up your understanding, to build up your garment, the Holy Spirit isn't gonna be strong with you, and you're gonna ultimately fold, and you're gonna eventually take that chip. Hey, Shalom, Mark. It's wonderful for joining. So my point being is that again, if you've been watching these videos, you've been, you know, delaying, you haven't been really getting into this. Hey man, you gotta pick up the pace, man. You gotta get fervent for this truth, and you gotta really start, you know, accelerating what you're doing, right? Meaning, if you're not learning, if you're not, you know, looking into these scriptures, if you don't know certain things, certain breakdowns, you really got to start studying, man. Put down the entertainment of this world and get into this Bible more, right? Prepare for what's going on, right? Get yourself a little bit of something here and there, so that way when these hard times do come, you do have a little bit extra food. You do have some sort of battery backup, so that way you could charge some lights or do certain things, right? Have a little bit extra water and stuff. Because why? Because when these things come down upon, they're not going to come in a slow manner where you're going to be given a warning by the media. One day what's going to happen is that the military is just going to come right in. They're going to set up bases, and now there's going to be curfews and checkpoints and all these things, and that's it, right? And again, you know, mark my words, I bet you when we get closer to the elections, you're going to start seeing more of these things start to play out. The brother Yahukanan brings out Joshua 1:8. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, and thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein, for then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Yeah, because that's true, man. Because you see, once you get into this truth, man, there's no reason that this truth, you know, can't be prosperous for you. Like, you're not going to get into this Bible and it's going to be a burden onto you, right? When you get into the Bible, you start studying more, you're going to start seeing that the knowledge and the wisdom in this Bible that's imparted to you, you're going to use it for your good. You're going to use it for the things that you do daily, and you're going to benefit from them, okay? So the thing is it's for our good, people. Remember, we're the Israelites, and this Bible is our power, right? This is our wisdom amongst the nations. So once we pay attention to this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to be in our right mind and doing that which is pleasing to the Lord. And when we please the Lord, he's going to benefit us, and he's going to bless us with the blessings, and he's going to keep these curses off of off of us, okay? So next, let's read this. This is our scripture that I'm going to get out of here, Akim. This is Malachi 3:18. It says, 3:16. Then they that feared Yahweh B'Hashem Yashai spake often one to another, right? That's basically what we're doing here, Akim, right? When we're here on our message boards, we're going back and forth, commenting, liking videos, sharing videos, right? Even when we're out here dialoguing with each other, right? Then they that feared Yahweh spake often one to another, and Yahweh hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him, and for them that feared Yahweh, and that thought upon his name. There you go. That's a cut to these other camps that say that the name of the Lord isn't important. It tells you right here that those that are going to be saved are going to be meditating upon the name of the Lord. And it says, and they shall be mine, saith Yahweh B'Hashem Yashai of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. You see that? So this is why I'm telling all you Akim out there that when you come into this truth, understand that you're not doing it, just to do it. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're serving the Lord. And because you're serving the Lord and you're doing what is good in his eyes, he's going to save you from the coming calamities. All these incursions that we're seeing happening around the United States, where all these military men are moving in now. You're seeing all the nations of the world starting to wrap up their military power, all getting ready for World War III. The famines that are setting up, all the division amongst the people that is being built up, all that right there, you will be saved from as long as you turn to the Lord and you start serving him. The brother Yakanan brings out Daniel 12:10. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Beautiful. One of my favorite scriptures right there, man. But you see, what's happening right now is the Lord is waking up his people, right? The Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline, okay? And he's telling us to wake up and come back to our true heritage, which is that of being an Israelite, right? And once we wake up, all those who have woken up, which we know by when you read Zechariah 13:8, that it's going to be 1 out of every 3 Negro, Latino, Native Americans that are going to wake up, understand who we are, come back to our heritage, and are going to wait for the Lord, right? Everybody else, the 2/3 of our people, are going to not pay attention. They're going to go about their life, and they're ultimately going to go forward and get destroyed, right? Thinking that none of this is true and thinking this is all fairy tale. So that being said, hopefully this video was edifying, Akim. Till the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahshai, B'Hashem, Kokodash, Brakateh Yahweh, Brakateh Yahshai, Brakateh Yahweh, Brakateh Yahshai, Brakateh Yahweh, Brakateh Yahshai, B'Hashem, Kokodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Till the next time, Akim, if you have any questions, put it down on the comment board. I'll see you brothers and sisters next week through my lessons. And until then, Shalom, Akim.